Hi everyone. Not sure if you guys can hear me, but I don't know if you all saw the email that just came through from Miss Dorset saying the class will begin at 6:45 tonight. She apologized for any inconvenience.
Oh, I just saw the thanks. Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Good evening, all. Good evening.
Good evening.
I apologize. You got my
Evening.
note?
Yes, ma'am.
Excellent. Okay. IT. Okay, so just a quick recap. I know Symphony said she was not able to make it tonight. She has a previous engagement, so we'll only be us four. And us recapping from the did you have an opportunity to read from anything on the last chapter, directors?
I was able to read some of it.
Okay, in relation to the company, what is a director? Or who is a director?
A person appointed by the shareholders to formally manage a company.
Okay. And what do we call the duties of the director? What kind of duties do they have?
Fiduciary duties.
Excellent, they fiduciary duties. So if they breach their duties, are there any, is there anything that I can do as a shareholder or a creditor or stakeholder?
Yes.
What can I do?
You can go to the courts, you can sue.
Right, so I'll sue them for what?
Breach of director.
Of the fiduciary duties, right?
Yes.
So is the director's role defined in the act? No, yes?
Say the question again, please.
Is the director's role defined in the act?
Yes, it is defined in the act under section 183 of the Companies Act.
Section one, what section 183 says?
Oh, sorry, that's the shadow director.
Okay. So is the director's role defined,
It's not defined.
right? What happens though? How would we know how to attribute the fiduciary duties to a director then if they're not defined? What section helps us with that?
Is it section 118 of the Companies Act?
No, remember when we talk about the standard of care, section 55?
I was going to say that, you know, but I was
Yeah, remember, as much as the director's duties are not defined, director is not defined, an officer is, but we'll find out more about a director under section 55, which sets out how they should act and what they should be doing, eh?
Yes.
So that's section 55. So always remember that that's an important part of directors setting out where you'll find the role of a director in particular in these acts. It's section 55 in which act?
The International Business Companies Act?
Right, and what is it in the Companies Act? Do they have it? Did you look to see if they have any? So perhaps you can look in the Companies Act to see if you'll find anything related to the standard of care of a director. Okay. Now, there are two types of directors. Who are the two types of directors?
Executive and
Executive and
non-executive.
non-executive.
Okay, who's the executive?
He works
The
for
executives
the
are the ones
company.
Excellent. And who's the non-executive?
who only sits on the board.
It's on the board. Excellent. Can the directors be indemnified?
Yes,
Okay, who's gonna indemnify them?
the company.
The company will indemnify them as long as they're what?
Acting in good faith.
So once they're keeping in good faith and observing their fiduciary duties, and once they're acting in what would we say is this, what we have the test to say about them, what this test is, what kind of test is
Fallacy
it?
test?
What is it?
Is it called a fallacy test?
Say it again.
Facade test?
Yes, the facade test, what the facade test is. That's what it is?
If it's- The facade test is to see if anything is being hidden, like,
So that's the wrong test. What test we looking for?
A subjective test.
Okay, what is that? That's what it's called?
If they are operating in the best interest of the company.
Okay, so what that test is? What we calling that test? Whether the director has what? So there's a legal test of whether we're gonna check to see whether the director has acted in good faith when we determine whether he's done something outside of his powers or if he's in breach, eh? And what kind of, this a legal test, and what is
the
this?
legal
What type of-
subjective test.
This is subjective because it's in what he believes to be in the best interest of the company. Can he be
Yes.
exonerated by the court?
Yes.
He can be exonerated. What about the company? What they can do to ensure that he is not held liable, where he would have acted in the best interest, given what? What we have to take into account? When we using the subjective test, what else to be taken into account? Remember, we have to say about what his powers and all those things, remember that? And the surrounding circumstances he would have acted in. You all remember or no?
Well, I found it just now while you were speaking on page
Okay.
43.
So he will be exercising that. Once he's doing it within his corporate discretionary administrative and any other powers. And in particular, we looking at the circumstances he exercised his discretion or his powers in, yes?
Yes.
Okay, I think we had a good little recap of that. We could move on so we could get through unit 5. Any questions on unit 4?
Not at the moment.
Okay, so we have unit 5. I think Sanika, you will help us this evening.
Okay.
So after this unit, we should be able to understand the fundamentals of corporate record keeping, develop an awareness of the legal requirements of record keeping, gain practical insight into record keeping policies, procedures, and best practices, apply knowledge and understanding of corporate record keeping to trust administration, and discuss issues involving corporate record keeping. You can begin.
Corporate record keeping and maintenance is critical to the establishment of best practices in company and trust administration. Such tasks provide trust officers and trust administrators with accurate and updated information that may be used in key decision-making in the administration of trust and the discharge of a trustee's duties. It is important to keep and maintain corporate records for the following reasons. 1, to ensure limited liability protection for the limited liability companies. 2, to ensure statutory, legal, and regulatory compliance. 3, to allow shareholders to be able to inspect corporate documents properly and adequately. 4, to fully document the shareholders, directors, and officers of a company and their due diligence information. 5, to represent current and accurate information on the company. It is its corporate and financial affairs and shareholding. Whilst the foregoing reasons do not comprise an exhaustive list, they do signify the practical need for effective record keeping and maintenance, particularly to minimize legal regulatory, and compliance risk for failing to adhere to the minimum legal requirements of corporate record keeping and maintenance. Corporate record keeping for IBCs. With regards to IBCs, the International Business Companies Act 2000 as amended requires the following. Section 37(1), an IBC must have a registered office at all times in the Bahamas. Section 37(2), the address of the registered office must be submitted to the Registrar General with memorandum of association on application for incorporation of the IBC. Section 37(3), the directors of an IBC may change the address of the registered office and notify the Registrar General within 14 days after the change has been made. Section 38(1), an IBC must have a registered agent at all times in the Bahamas. Section 38(2), a person cannot act as a registered agent unless he is licensed to carry the business of financial and corporate services pursuant to Section 3 of the Financial and Corporate Services Providers Act 2000 as amended. The section does not apply to a company licensed under the Bahamas and Trust Companies Regulation Act 2000 as amended. Section 38(5), the name and address of the registered agent must be submitted to the Registrar General for registration at the date of incorporation of the IBC. Section 39, Registrar General maintains a register of registered agents. Under Section 7 of the International Business Companies Amendment Act 2004, a register of mortgages and charges may be prepared and kept at the registered office. The IBC may elect to submit the register of mortgages and charges for registration with the Registrar General if decides to do so.
Okay, so we see these sections, which we again repeat, and remember some of these are what we've already discussed before, but now we know what section they now relate back to. So you not only know why you need a registered agent, you know what section tells you why you need a registered agent. You know what section tells you you must have a registered office in the Bahamas. What section tells you that? For an IBC, let's make sure this is particular, paying attention that this is IBCs we're talking about. So the IBC must have a registered office at all times in the Bahamas. What section is that?
37.
And what section deals with us having an IBC having a registered agent?
38(1).
38(1).
Okay, and you see, we repeat this all the time that you cannot act as a registered agent unless what?
Unless you are licensed to do
Licensed.
so under FCSP.
Section 3 of the FCSP Act 2000, right?
Yes, ma'am.
However, who this does not apply to?
To a company licensed under the Banks and Trust Companies Regulations Act.
Excellent. So you see these sections, you all should know back and front. We repeat these so much times, you all should notice whenever someone asks you a question, they should slip right off your tongue. What about the register of mortgages and charges? Is that necessary to be filed?
If they decide to do so.
Right, so who will ask them to register that? The person who gives them the mortgage or the charge, they want to see that you register this so the world will know you have a mortgage. This company has a mortgage with us, yes? So usually that's what happens in these IBCs. They offshore vehicles and you have international banks who may be lending them money. What they would ask them to do is to file this register of mortgages and charges with the Registrar General in the Bahamas and provide them with a copy. That usually happens most in the IBCs because that's the only way they could secure their assets over these, to ensure that they'll be able to be repaid on these IBCs when they're be able to liquidate and they are not paid if they do so. Okay. Any questions on that, on this? Remember, this is for corporate record keeping purposes of an IBC. So you should know these things in keeping the records of an IBC. You should know that you must have a registered office in the Bahamas. There should be a registered agent and the registered agent must be company licensed under Section 3 of the FCSP Act 2000 as amended, or it must be a bank and trust company. And you cannot, the registered agent must submit to the Registrar General at the date of registration of incorporation of the IBC, their name and address. And if you're looking to see if someone is a registered agent, you just go to the Registrar General because he maintains that register under Section 39 of the Act. Okay? Let's move on.
Similarly to Companies Act, companies, an IBC must maintain a share register at its registered office. Section
Sorry,
20
before we go on.
Hmm?
I have a question.
Okay.
So a registered agent, what would be their job beside being a registered agent? Are they like lawyers or?
Well, no, so you have most of these companies who they are investment companies. So a bank usually would get into this IBC business because their main business isn't about incorporating IBCs. Their main business may be trust, or their main business may be mutual funds, but the IBC is the vehicle they have to use in order to facilitate those things. So they really could care less about an IBC. However, they don't want to outsource that business to lawyers because that means they're not able to offer their client a package, eh? So me as let's say UBS, I don't think they're around anymore like that. So we'll say UBS Trust. They will apply for a FCSP license if they were not registered under what?
the trust, bank and trust companies regulation
Right.
act.
So if they don't have a bank and trust company's license, they have to now apply for an FCSP license in order to do business. So you will find that most companies come here to the Bahamas and they try to get that FCSP license in order to do the business that they really want to do, which may be securities dealing, investment banking, trust, all of those things. They need to offer the client a total package because the client don't want to be from here and there and everywhere. They don't want to be in a lawyer's office one day and then they have to come back to you. That means their name is all over the place. They want to just be able to have a one-stop shop. So that's why they try to make sure that they get this FCSP license if they're not a bank and trust company. And most of them are not banks and trust companies. They may just be investment companies. So then they need an FCSP license to deal with incorporation of IBCs. So in order to do that, in order for you to incorporate an IBC, you need to have that license under the FCSP Act to do your business. So it's only a vehicle they use, but they need that license to carry on business.
So it's not necessarily the individual that has to have that license, the company.
No, because you could be an individual now who have sufficient experience and you can show that you are credible to do business, because a lot of small Bahamians are doing it now who may have worked in trust and company administration before. They have years of experience and they may go on their own trying to get their own license in order to do business with the international community.
Okay.
So you don't really have to be a lawyer to do this, or you don't have to be a big company. If you are, you could show that you are sufficiently stable, you get the proper references, you show you have a business plan, you have the KYC procedures in place, you may be able to get your own license.
Okay.
Okay, but you see they make this so that it won't be that anybody could come and incorporate an IBC in the Bahamas, because it's supposed to benefit the Bahamas and not benefit foreigners. So the foreigners are already coming here to use our facility. So it shouldn't be that they're the ones who are also able to only incorporate these companies. So they try to give it, so you must have a registered agent in the Bahamas. And they must be registered with the under the with the Securities Board under the FCSP Act. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go ahead.
Similarly,
Similarly.
similar, sorry. Similarly to companies, an IBC must maintain a share register at its registered office. Section 29(1). An IBC is required to keep at its registered office one or more registers to be known as its share register containing 1. The names and addresses of the persons who hold registered shares in the company. 2. The number of each class and series of registered shares held by each person. 3. The date on which the name of each person was entered into the share register. And 4. The date on which any person ceased to be a member. Section 29(2).
So what is important about this section 29, that you must maintain a register at the registered office? Why you think they're making sure you know that? Because does the IBC file is register anywhere else?
The share register, no, they don't, right?
Right, so this for confidentiality, so the registrar general won't know, or the public won't know who are the shareholders of this company, eh?
Right.
But you will be able to, you as the registered agent should know it. That's what they're saying. You have to do your part. As a registered agent in the Bahamas, you must know who are the shareholders of this company. Okay.
Section 29(2). The share register may be in such form as the directors may approve it. But if it is magnetic, electronic, or other data storage form, the company shall be able to produce legible evidence of its contents. Section 29(3). The share register shall be prima facie evidence of any matters directed or authorized by the IBC Act. Section 29(4). Where the IBC is limited by guarantee, the term share register shall mean register of members, in which shall be entered the names and addresses of the members of such a company, the date of such entry, and the date when any person ceased to be a member.
Okay, so they're telling you how your register should be kept. If you keep it in a form that it's electronic, then you should be able to produce it, notwithstanding legible evidence of its content. So you should be able to print it at some point if they ask you for it. And then the share register is, on the face of it, evidence that matters directed are authorized by the IBC Act. And where it's limited by guarantee, share register means register of members. So because when it's limited by guarantee, do we issue shares? No way.
Not sure. Why don't we issue shares when it's limited by
Remember,
guarantee?
they only guaranteeing something. And when it's limited by guarantee, I only guarantee up to the amount that I pay into the company. Remember,
Okay.
when we started out, we have the company limited by shares guarantee. We have the hybrid company, which may be shares and guarantee.
Right.
So if I guarantee something, I'm only guaranteeing up to a certain point of what I inject into this company. I don't have shares, the company don't issue shares. And we have most companies who are nonprofits are limited by
Guarantee?
yes, by guarantee. That's where we started off. So remember now, from unit 1 to unit 6 is our chapters. And so you have to remember unit 1 in order for us to move on to unit 6, eh? So we
Yes, sir.
started out with the companies, the shareholdings and how they are, the Solomon's principle and all that. So we have shares, company that may issue shares, or companies who may only be limited by guarantee, or we have shares and guarantee, which is a hybrid. Okay. So in the case where it's limited by guarantee, we only enter the name of the member of the company, and he's only a member. He's a member by the guarantee that he provides upon liquidation, eh? He's only guaranteed up to a certain point. Okay, go ahead.
By law, an IBC must maintain a share register and register of directors and officers. Section 44(1), an IBC is required to keep a register of directors and officers containing 1, the names and addresses of the persons who are directors and officers of the company. 2, the date on which each person was appointed as director or officer of the company. 3, the date on which each person ceased to be a director or officer of the company.
Okay, so when I ask you, ABC Company Limited has issued shares to 2 or 3 beneficiaries. However, they have not, there's no record of the share register being prepared at the registered office. Are they in contravention of any section of the IBC Act?
Can you repeat that, please?
So ABC has issued shares to 3 beneficiaries, Jane, John, and Jill. There's no register at the registered office of the company. We don't know who when I come there, I don't know who the registered, who were the shareholders. I don't know who they are. There's no share register there. Is the registered office in contravention of the act? Is the company in contravention of the act, of the IBC Act?
Yes, they are.
And
Under
what?
section 29,
Excellent. 29 what?
1.
Excellent. So that's what you need. You see why I'm asking you that, eh?
Yes,
So you
ma'am.
should be able to know the sections. Okay, go ahead.
Section 44(2). The register of directors and officers may be in such form as the directors approve. I read that already, eh? Oh, no,
That's for
okay.
shareholders, this for
Right.
the, right.
Okay. Section 44(2). The register of directors and officers may be in such form as directors approve, but if it is in a magnetic, electronic, or other data storage form, the company must be able to produce legible evidence of its contents. Section 44(4). A copy of the register of directors and officers shall be filed with the filed with the Registrar General and open for inspection by the members of the company.
Okay, so that's important, eh? We said that how much time we repeat this through all our chapters now? So the register of directors and officers shall be filed. And what section tells us that?
44(4).
Well, right, okay, go ahead.
Under Section 11 of the International Business Companies Amendment Act 2004, the register of directors and officers must be filed within 12 months of appointment. Okay,
so that's important to note, because you can't have the IBC incorporated for 10 years and you've not filed the register of officers and directors yet. It's supposed to be filed within 12 months of you appointing the directors or officers. So any changes that happen, you have 12 months to ensure that the registrar is aware of any changes as well, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Okay. Section 67(1). A company shall keep such financial statements, accounts, and records as the directors consider necessary or desirable in order to reflect the financial position of the company. So the section 67(2) then, where it has 2?
Yes, that's 67, section 2, and then
Okay.
3, and so forth.
Okay, section 67(2). A company shall keep at its registered office a copy of the memorandum and articles and all amendments thereto. B, a register of all its directors and officers and such other records as the minister may by order prescribe. Section 67(3). A company shall have a common seal and an imprint thereof shall be kept at the registered office of the company.
Okay, so where we also say we should see this information. In particular, A company shall have a common seal and an imprint thereof shall be kept at the registered office of the company. And we have this also covered in our articles.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so there's also in the Articles of Association. So the articles is a reflection of the act, and they usually ensure that these sections out of the act are placed in the articles as well. Okay?
Continue.
Yes, please.
Section 68, requirements for inspection of company records by a member or by attorney. Upon refusal by the company of a request, the member may, before the expiration of a period of 90 days of his receiving notice of the refusal, apply to the court for an order to allow the inspection.
So then as a member, I should be able to see the records of the company, eh?
Yes, ma'am.
But you have certain records you could see, but we'll go into that more, okay?
Okay. The IBC Accounting Records Order 2016 requires IBCs to keep at its registered office a declaration stating that, 1, the company is maintaining reliable accounting records, and 2, the accounting records shall be made available to its registered agent. Section 181 imposes a fine of $10,000 or imprisonment for 2 years if a person who makes or assists in making a report, return, notice, or other document for submission to the registrar that A, contains an untrue statement of a material fact, or B, omits to state a material fact required in such report, return, notice, or other document.
Okay, so it's important that the IBC also keeps at its registered office a declaration stating that the company is maintaining reliable accounting records, and the accounting records should be made available to its registered agent as well. So the registered agent should have a copy of these records as well. Okay? In case a member comes there and they want to inspect, you should have those available for them to see. Okay? Any questions? Because this is more or less just hashing out the sections where you'll find these things in the act. Any questions on it? Okay, let's go to the questions now. This is why it is important to keep and maintain corporate records. Where we'll find that answer?
Page 54.
What are the reasons?
To ensure limited liability protection for limited liability companies, to ensure statutory, legal, and regulatory compliance, to allow shareholders to be able to inspect corporate documents properly and adequately, to fully document the shareholders, directors, and officers of a company and their due diligence information, to represent current and accurate information on the company, its corporate and financial affairs, and shareholding.
Excellent. Okay, 2, what information must be included in the register of member shareholders for an IBC Companies Act company? Find that answer.
Is it page 55?
Page 55, what it says.
Section 37(1), an IBC must be registered office at all times in the Bahamas.
No. What must be included? What information must be included?
Oh, I misread the question, sorry.
Yeah, okay, what information must be included? Where we'll find that? Look on the bottom of 55, section 29(1).
Oh. An IBC is required to keep at its registered office one or more registers to be known as its share register containing
Uh-huh.
the names and addresses of the persons who hold registered shares in the company, the number of each class and series of registered shares held by each person, the date on which the name of each person was entered on the share register, and the date on which any person ceased to be a member.
Right, that's right. Okay, number 3, with regard to IBCs, a person cannot act as blank unless he is licensed to carry on the business of financial and corporate services pursuant to Section 3 of the Financial and Corporate Services Providers Act 2000 as amended. Where we'll find that answer.
Page 55,
That's
section
also-
38.2.
Excellent. And what goes in that blank?
Registered
Registered
agent.
agent.
Excellent, excellent. Number 4, failure to keep a share register under the IBC Act is an offense with a penalty of a fine of blank or blank years imprisonment.
$10,000.
Or imprisonment of up to 2 years.
Where we'll find the answer?
57.
On page 57, the last paragraph.
Okay. Okay, what information must be contained in the register of directors and officers for an IBC?
Page 56, section 44.1.
Okay, give me some of the information.
The names and addresses of the persons who are directors and officers of the company, the date on which each person was appointed as director and officer of the company, and the date on which each person ceased to be director and officer of the company.
Okay, under Section 11 of the International Business Companies Amendment Act 2004, the register of directors and officers must be filed within blank months of appointment. Where we'll find that answer?
Page
Bottom of
56.
56.
And what is the answer?
12
12
months.
months.
Excellent. So even if you were appointed at the beginning and you've now moved on and we appoint new officers and directors, do you still have to file?
Yeah, it must be filed within 12 months.
So any new persons you must ensure that that's filed within 12 months, eh?
Yes.
Okay, under Section 7 of the IBC Act, Amendment Act 2004, a register of blank may be prepared and kept at the registered office. What is that?
Mortgages and charges.
Okay, mortgages and charges. And what, let me see if they put it here. Under Section 7, yes, they have the section. Mortgages and charges. And what does mortgages and charges tells us?
Which page is that, sorry?
So that's
Oh,
page
yes, you have to
55.
tell us the page, sorry.
Sorry,
55.
page 55.
Thank you.
What the mortgages and register of mortgages and charges tells us about the company.
That they have a mortgage.
Excellent. So any charge they may have, any floating charge or any debenture I may have, I will put against the company, and I may want you to file it if I'm your creditor. All right. So we understand what the fundamentals of corporate record keeping are. What are the fundamentals? We want to ensure limited liability protection for limited liability companies. We want to ensure that we are statutorily, legally, regulatory compliant. We want to allow it for shareholders to inspect, because if you don't allow them to inspect, what can they do?
So,
If I don't allow a shareholder to inspect the records, what can they do?
they can take me to court.
Excellent. And then we want to fully document. It's important for fully documenting the directors, the officers, the shareholders. of the company, and we want to represent an current and accurate information on the company, its corporate and financial affairs and shareholdings. What about the legal requirements for record keeping? What are the legal requirements?
That IBC must have the registered office at all times in the Bahamas.
Mhm.
They must have a registered agent at all times as well in the Bahamas.
So they must have it at all times in the Bahamas. What else? What other legal requirements we have?
The address of the registered office must be submitted to the Registrar General along with a memorandum of association.
Okay. What else?
The directors of an IBC must change the address of the registered office and notify the Registrar General in 14 days after the
Okay.
change has been made.
And give me some sections too when you're telling me this so they could stay in your head. What about filing the register of officers and directors?
Sorry, I missed that question.
What about filing the register of officers and directors?
That's section 38.5.
Right, so I want you to tell me sections dealing with it. So section 38.5, you must file a register of officers and directors. What section deals with registered agent?
No, sorry, registered agent is 38.5. The name and address
Okay.
of the registered agent must be submitted to the Registrar General.
What section deals with filing the 44 what? Right? 44.4 deals with you ensuring you file a register of directors and officers. Section 11 deals with what you do in Amendment Act. IBC Amendment Act 2004, what section 11 tells you?
What does section, you say what does section 11 tell us?
11 of the IBC Amendment Act 2004.
That it must
Would that
be
tell-
filed within 12 months.
Excellent. What about us keeping accounts at the office? What section tells us about that?
Is that section
Section-
68?
Section 60, or that's requirements for inspection.
Oh,
67, right
oh,
above it.
67, sorry,
Right,
67.
right, 67. And what section imposes fines?
Section 181.
And which act that falls under?
Which,
Which act that is?
this is the IBC,
IBC Act,
yes.
okay. Which act? IBC Amendment Act, IBC Accounting Records
International
Act,
Business
IBC.
Companies Amendment Act.
Okay, Amendment Act,
Who's that?
or just the IBC Act? 2000 is amended. Which one is it?
This is the IBC Amendment Act of 2004.
That's what they tell you, section 181 is Amendment Act?
Is
Weren't
it
all
the,
of these under the same thing?
it's the accounting records order?
No, I asking you which act it is under. So we have to make sure we know which act is under. Which act we dealing with?
The amended Act 2000, IBC?
Right, so this is under the IBC Companies Act 2000 as amended. These sections take place. They make note to let you know when we're dealing with the Amendment Act.
Okay. Oh, at the top of page
So the-
55.
Right, so the substantive act gives you these things, and the acts that are amended, they make note of it, so you would know the difference, okay?
Okay.
All right, and I think what can happen if I am trying to incorporate a company and I am not a FCSP or I am not a bank and trust companies? What happens? Would I be able to incorporate?
No.
Because what section deals where the registrar knows who I am?
Section 39 is a
Awesome.
Registrar General maintains a registered of all the registered agents.
Excellent, excellent. So you see, that's what so just look at the sections and just answer, and that helps you with just constantly repeating. Remember, I tell you, everything is repetition. So we just keep going over it, and now we putting some more meat on the bones, eh? We now know sections. We're dealing with sections now. We don't only know why the company must have a registered agent. We know what section tells us why they must have a registered agent in the IBC Act, okay? Any questions? Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
This is more or less repetition, but we just applying now sections. So unit 6 is our last class for this section, and it's a big chapter. So if you have a chance to please look at it, and I will see if any cases in there I can send you ahead for reading. I don't see them referring to any in the back section. But if you could
this mean
just look at
exam close?
it.
This mean exam close?
Very close. You see, you're already through 6 units. You're
I
did well, eh?
Yes, ma'am.
And I mean, it seems that you have a good understanding and grasp of what you've read so far, eh?
Yes, ma'am.
Excellent. So you all are good students. So what we'll do is continue and we'll do well. Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
So see if we can have a look at it, because unit 6 we can get through once you had a read over, and then you'll be able to ask questions just in case anything is not clear to you. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so at least we didn't lose too much time with us with the late start, but I appreciate your patience.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, no questions?
No, ma'am.
Ma'am,
No?
No, ma'am.
Okay then. So I will see you guys on Saturday morning.
bright and early.
Yes, ma'am.
Excellent. Okay, take care now. Have a
Good
good
night.
evening.
All right.
You
Take
too.
care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.